If you're new to my YouTube channel, please click that subscribe button and remember to click the bell icon to get notifications of all my uploads throughout the week. So it's time to do my second project for IndigoBlu, or for the IndigoBlu design team today. And so I have already just stuck down, because it's a really boring process that you don't really need to see, a piece of watercolour cardstock, and this is about 126 millimeters, which is around about 5 inches. So if you have a look, that's about 5 inches square. And I've just taped it down, and I also have this honeycomb stencil that I've just layered over the top, and I've just hinged it at the top just to hold it down. And I've got some more masking tape here, and I'm just going to also add a little bit at the bottom, just kind of to keep it tight so that it doesn't bag while I'm adding paint and stuff underneath or over the top. So because I've masked it, I'm going to have a little white border all the way around while I'm doing the project. So the colours that I want to use for this, of course, I've got honeycomb, so I'm going to use the IndigoBlu Lemon Meringue matte paint, and I've given it a shake up because I want some of that paint to go into the lid. So I'm just going to take the lid off very, very carefully now. There we go. A beautiful, beautiful colour that is. And I also have the apricot blush from the Junk and Disorderly Portrait Paint set, because I think this is a kind of really nice, kind of warm, orangey, well, a reddy kind of orange, which is perfect for doing what I want to do. So I also have that one there. So those are the two colours that I've got. I've got a couple of ink blending foams, very, very clean ones, and I'm going to use one for each. Now let me just put those pots of paint out of the way, because you know what I'm like, I'll end up putting my elbow in. And I'm going to just take a little bit of the paint on the foam, and this is exactly the same process that you do with any other kind of acrylic paint, like dilutions and that kind of stuff. And then I'm just going to start off, and I'm going to just come in and just use the paint exactly the same way that you would use an ink. Because it's acrylic paint, excuse my telephone noise, that's a good news sound. Right, because it's acrylic paint, it does dry pretty quickly, but just to help it along, I'm just going to give that a quick blast with my heat tool, and then you'll see what it is that I'm trying to achieve in a minute. Right, so I've just given that a blast with the heat tool, but I still want to add a little bit more of that yellow paint on, but this time just a little bit lighter. Not quite so hard. So I've now gone completely all the way over. So I want to completely dry that before I add on the next colour. So that yellow paint is now completely dry, and then I'm going to just take a little bit of this lovely apricot blush, and then just push the paint into the blending foam, and then start off the outside and then just work our way kind of lightly around the edges. You can go heavier in some places but lighter in others. Now I just want to go all the way around, and then just a little bit maybe into the middle, just very, very light touches. Okay, now if I'm if I don't like this bit up here, I think it's too heavy, then what I can do is I can just take a dry wet wipe, if there is such a thing, and just gently rub it, and that will remove just some of that top surface of the paint. Now I don't want to wet it, because if I wet it I'm going to start smudging the paint. So just very, very gently rub it just to remove a little bit of it off. Okay, I'm happy with that background. And then I'm going to just screw the lids back on the paints, just to make sure that clumsy old me doesn't send them reeling across the carpet. And then grab a wet wipe, a proper wet wipe this time, wet wipe, as opposed to a dry wet wipe. And then just get rid of that excess paint, like so. And then we can start to peel off the stencil. So start at the top. And then gently from the bottom. And then I can put that stencil in for washing. And then very, very carefully, I'm going to peel off this masking tape. Depending which, yeah, this is the order that I did. I'm going to do it very, very gently because I don't want to pull and rip the edge of the paper. So just very, very carefully, just take your time. Patience being a virtue and all that. This side next. And just very, very slow. Now you can just see, I'll hold it up in a second, that because I've used textured watercolour cardstock, that some of that texture has actually been picked up on the paint. You can just see it here and up here, but I'll show you a little close-up in a second. There we go. And then the final piece, and if it's going to go wrong, this is where it's going to go wrong. There we go. Cool. Didn't go wrong there. Just move that out of the way and I can clean that excess bit of paint off. Right, so all that masking tape and tissues and bits of masking tape can go into the bin. There we go. So we have one lovely kind of honeycomb background. Of course you can get the same results by using inks and that kind of stuff and any other paints, but obviously this is an IndigoBlu design team video, so I'm going to use just IndigoBlu products. Okay, so now that's done, I'm ready to start constructing the rest of my greetings card. So I'll get my bits and pieces and I'll be right back. Okay, so 6-inch card base. So 6 inches by 6 inches, that's what we're going to work with. So a white cardstock. I have a piece of black cardstock which is cut at 2/8 of an inch smaller, or that's around about 8 millimeters smaller than the card front. So that gives us a nice 2/8 of an inch or 4mm border all the way around. And then I've cut this the same, so again at 126. At 126, yep, at 126 again, which is 2/8 of an inch smaller than that. And then the original size for this fits in just nicely with the same kind of increment and border all the way around. So I'm going to glue these down. Now before we go any further, because you've already watched me do that, I've already created the inside of the card as well. So instead of going all over, I've just done exactly the same thing, but this time just in that bottom right hand corner, and that's going to go on the inside of my card. So I've decorated the outside and the inside. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly start to layer these up. Now this is a bit of a boring process, just watching somebody stick things down. So what I'll do is I will make sure I've got the glue open first of all, is I'll just do the first bit and then I'll put you on fast forward with a little bit of music, and then I'll join with you once I've stuck everything down. Okay, so front of the card and the inside of the card is now decorated to mirror. So we have those fantastic black and yellow stripes, we have the honeycomb, so you can guess pretty much what the focal image of my card is going to be. Okay, so for my next step I'm going to be using the Collector's Edition number 9 Bumblebee, and I will be using all three, but to start off with I'm going to use this large Bumblebee stamp just here, which I've already mounted onto my stamp press, and I'm just going to use jet black iCarver ink, and I'm going to stamp, or just load up the stamp, and then I'm going to just flip that over and then just stamp straight down like so. And then I'm going to bring in my mustard seed distress marker and my wild honey distress marker, and I'm just going to colour in the little parts of the bee's body just there, just using that brush tip. Obviously if you don't have distress you can use whatever markers you feel comfortable with. I just have these to hand, and I'm just using the wild honey just as a darker shade, just to add a little bit of kind of dimension to the body of the bumblebee. Just like that. Just like that. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a pair of scissors. I do have some kicking around somewhere, they're behind me, there you go. And I'm going to cut out the bumblebee just like so, but I'm going to cut it, I'm not going to cut out the legs. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut out the body and the wings, because we're going to stamp down first and then stick this on over the top. So I'm going to carry on fussy cutting out the bumblebee, and I will be right back. Okay, so my bumblebee is all cut out, and I'm just going to grab a brown, this is a walnut stain, distress marker, and I'm just going to go around the body just to hide any of those kind of obvious white marks or white edges that I kind of may have missed. So just very, very carefully just go around with the tip just to get rid of those raw white edges. And when this is stuck down you probably never see it, it'll never be noticed, but it just adds that kind of, I want to say professional touch to it, but that sounds a little bit conceited because nobody ever said I was a professional. Okay, so there's the bumblebee. So we've still got the stamp. Now I'm going to bring back in the front of my card, and I'm going to kind of work out where I want the bee to be. Ha! Where the bee to be. Do you like it? So I think about there, do we reckon? Maybe a little bit further. Around about there. So I'm going to ink up. And then we'll position the stamp. So about there. And then I'm just going to go straight down, give it a little bit of pressure, because it is textured cardstock, so I don't expect to get a perfect impression. All I need is just for you to be able to see it properly, like so. And then what we can do is then lay this over the top, just like that. And that's going to hide the bits of the body, so you just get to see the wing or the legs and the antenna sticking forward. So I'm going to grab some glue. Hello Mr. Bentley Booze. and then just add some little bits of glue. All the way around. And just on the tip. This is nearly run out. My Tombow has nearly run out. And then I can just lay that down kind of in that same position. Now this glue does give you a tiny bit of wiggle room just to get it all nice and lined up before it grabs. And because I've used paint as opposed to acrylic, sorry, as opposed to distress ink or anything like that, it won't react with the glue. Perfectly safe. And all we have to do is just put something down on there, and then if we've got a space where we kind of missed a little bit of that yellow, if we weren't perfect on the cutting out, we can always just touch it up. And then if you think that the legs aren't dark enough, we can always bring in a Pigma and then just darken up those legs as well. But there we go. So that kind of covers over those hexagons and makes our bee stand out a little bit better. Now for the smaller ones we don't need to bother because they're pretty much filled in almost. So if we use, let's just see which one, let's use this one and then just ink it up. And then we can drop that down select where we want to go, like so. Excuse the noise. And then whichever way we then want to add them onto the front of the card. They don't have to be perfect. These are the ones that are in the background. And do it facing the opposite way. Just move them around a little bit. And you can add as many as you want. I think I'm going to add one more just down here at the bottom, and I think that'll do. So I like that, so I'm now going to flip it open, and for my sentiment I'm going to be using this: be yourself, everyone else is taken. And of course this obviously is the Mini Mike stamp set from IndigoBlu by somebody or other. So I have that sentiment like so. So I'm going to place that onto my stamp block, make sure I've got it the right way around, just trying to line up the bottom of the text on the stamp. Or the bottom of the text on the stamp with the grid lines on there. I think that's just about right. And then all I'm going to do is just stamp that probably somewhere in the middle. Probably try not to get my head in shot, but I think that's pretty much lined up, pretty much square. So just take it straight down, give it a push, and then lift up again. Tiny little leg there, but I probably will be able to remove that a bit later on. And there you go. One cute little card. just a quick update, I did add a little bee on the inside of the card a couple of days later because I thought it was just needing a little bit extra. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, without whose generosity and support these videos would not be possible. Thank you.